If you're getting ready to draft your fantasy team, I really hope you don't blindly follow the ADP, because if you do, there's a few mistakes that you may be getting ready to make. So which players do you need to be paying attention to, and who should you be drafting over somebody else? We're gonna break it all down right now. Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Today's video is going to be taking a look at some key mistakes that you may be making if you're getting ready to draft a best ball team. And while this information is geared a little bit more towards best ball, it can be utilized for anything. So regardless of what format you play in, make sure you stick around and watch all of the content. But we got to talk about some best ball because we're partnered with Underdog once again in 2024. And if you're looking to get your best ball on and get a free Fantasy Headliners draft guide, I got exactly the steps that you need to take. All you got to do is download the Underdog app, create a new account, and deposit at least $10 using code word headliners. For using our code, you're gonna get a deposit bonus. You're gonna get a special pick'em that's almost guaranteed to hit, and you're gonna get our 2024 fantasy football draft guide for absolutely free. And considering the draft guide is $21.99, depositing $10 and playing in a couple of best ball leagues with me absolutely is well worth the 50% off cost of the draft guide. But make sure you watch this entire video before you draft your first team, because right now the ADP has a few guys going over somebody else that I just don't agree with. And I think it's going to be a big mistake for you in your best ball leagues to make those draft picks. The first mistake that you don't want to make this season is drafting Jamar Chase with an average ADP of 4.1 over Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has an average ADP of 5.9. And this isn't to knock on Jamar Chase, because he truly is a special NFL talent. But I'm more worried about the health of the quarterback position. Joe Burrow is coming back from a wrist injury that we typically haven't seen in quarterbacks in the past, and we really don't know how he's going to bounce back. And on the other side, you've got Jared Goff, who has been a staple of health while in Detroit and has had no issues missing games. If I had to bet on one of these quarterbacks getting the ball to my wide receiver more consistently this season, I would take Jared Goff over Joe Burrow, even if Joe Burrow has a higher upside. But what about the uncertainty around the other positions with the Cincinnati Bengals? First off, at the running back position, you're losing Joe Mixon, and you decided to invest in Zach Moss and Chase Brown instead. Will either of those guys be able to do what Joe Mixon has done for the last several years? What about the wide receiver position? Tyler Boyd is gone. Who's going to be stepping in to take his place? He was a constant veteran in this offense. And what about T. Higgins, the wide receiver 2 on this team, who doesn't have a new contract? And if he doesn't get one, the first time he feels a little bit of a tweak in his hamstring, maybe he doesn't want to go back out there. Maybe he doesn't want to sacrifice missing out on a big deal next year. And I think that we can also agree that the NFC North is going to be very competitive this year. But give me the AFC North defenses to be a little bit better. And that could be a big difference between Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jamar Chase in best ball is looked at as this high value, high upside player. And normally in best ball leagues, you're looking for that high upside. But I can't agree with it in this situation. Amon-Ra St. Brown has just been way too consistent the last couple of years. And maybe he doesn't have the consistent upside as Jamar Chase, but he absolutely has a better floor. We know that he can't be double teamed because of all of the weapons around him in the offense, where who knows, Jamar Chase, if other guys start missing or ineffective, he may be double teamed more times than not. And of course, with Joe Burrow and the wrist, how healthy will he be this season? I can just not invest in Jamar Chase over Amon-Ra St. Brown right now, regardless of what the upside is. The second mistake that I don't want you making is investing in Devon Achane with an ADP of 25.4 over Derrik Henry, who has a current ADP of 32 overall. Health for Devon Achane has been an issue since he entered the league. When he was drafted, his small stature was discussed over and over again. And the dude was banged up even before the season started, and it continued through the rest of the year. He missed 6 games last season. In Derrik Henry's career, he's only missed more than 2 games one time. He's been a consistent, healthy option. For as good as the Miami backfield was last season, we know that the running back is a staple position of any Ravens offense. Since 2018, they have only finished outside the top 5 in rushing touchdowns one time. We know that Derrik Henry is going to be getting the ball at the goal line and in the red zone for the Baltimore Ravens. And some people will talk about Lamar Jackson stealing those rushing touchdowns, but Jackson typically doesn't get those rushing touchdowns the way a Jalen Hurts does. Lamar Jackson scores on the ground from further out. When they get closer to the end zone, they go to their running backs. Just like Gus Edwards last year, who made his fantasy living on scoring touchdowns inside the 5-yard line. For the Miami Dolphins, you just don't know who's going to be getting the ball at the goal line. Will they run it with Achane? Will they run it with Mostert? Jalen Wright, the newly drafted running back, could get some looks there as well. You've got Tyreek Hill, you've got Jalen Waddle. They could be going to any of these guys. And new tight end Jonnu Smith is also pretty decent in the red zone himself. But let's just take a look at the depth chart alone. Right behind Derrik Henry is Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell, who's not even going to be healthy probably to start the season. There is no competition for touches with Derrik Henry in the Ravens backfield this year. Yeah, Justice Hill might get a few carries here and there. When Keaton Mitchell comes back, he may give a break to Derrik Henry every now and then, but we know Derrik Henry is going to be on the field for the Ravens. When it comes to the depth chart for the Dolphins, we don't know that. Raheem Mostert was the number 2 overall running back in all of fantasy football last year, and the dude scored a ton of touchdowns. Like I mentioned already, they drafted Jalen Wright. They've got guys behind Devon Achane that could make this a truly 50-50 split backfield. And heck, if Wright gets involved quite a bit as well, maybe we see a 40-40-10 split and Devon Achane doesn't even get 50% of the touches in any given week. I know people are reaching for Achane in best ball because they love his upside, but there is no way in the world that I'm missing out on the safe floor of Derrik Henry that will have a tremendous amount of upside with it, because the dude could score 15 or more rushing touchdowns this year. Mistake number 3, there is no way that I am drafting Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes this season. Right now, Josh Allen is being drafted with an ADP of 37.7 overall, while Patrick Mahomes is right behind him with a 49.4 ADP. We're talking about a 10-spot difference between the QB1 and the QB4 in drafts right now. And while that doesn't seem like a whole lot, there's some guys going in between there that I would much rather have a little bit earlier and then take Patrick Mahomes around later. George Pickens, Amari Cooper, and Christian Kirk. Those are 3 really solid wide receivers that you could be taking in the spots in between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. What about the running back position? If you're not super solid on running backs when these draft picks come up to you, you could still get Travis Etienne and Isaiah Pacheco. And then if you need to solidify your tight end position still, Trey McBride and Mark Andrews are also available in this area. And the reason why that drop is important is because the guys that you could get by skipping on Josh Allen and drafting Patrick Mahomes instead give you a lot more upside than the guys that you would be drafting later on after Patrick Mahomes. And the difference in fantasy points between the 2 quarterbacks isn't a whole lot. From 2020 to 2022, Josh Allen only scored a total of 51.9 more fantasy points. Now in 2023, Josh Allen absolutely outpaced Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes didn't have quite the high-paced offense that he was used to in the past. And they've added Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown now to give him a lot more speed on the outside, open up the middle of the field, and we're going to see some truly fantastic numbers from Patrick Mahomes this year. While Josh Allen's situation has not gotten any better. His situation is far worse than it has been since he broke out in 2020. So I'll skip on Josh Allen 12 picks earlier to invest in one of these players that I just talked about, which will give you a higher upside than the players in the same area drafted after Patrick Mahomes. Then you take Patrick Mahomes 12 rounds later and you are set with your fantasy quarterback. Okay. Potential mistake number 4, and I'm not nearly as passionate about this one as I was for the first 3, but I definitely feel like drafting Isaiah Pacheco over Kenneth Walker this season could end up being a mistake. Isaiah Pacheco currently has an ADP of 46.8, while Kenneth Walker is going a couple of rounds behind him with an ADP of 69.1. And in this instance, it feels like people are being a little too safe with Isaiah Pacheco instead of taking the potential upside of Kenneth Walker. And that's why I like Isaiah Pacheco. This isn't because I don't like him. I think he is a very good fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think his floor is what makes him a good running back. For as hard as he runs and the yards that he picks up, he does all of that extremely well. But there are a few things that he just does not get a chance to do that reduces his potential upside every single week. So while a couple of the things I've talked about to begin with talked about, hey, you're drafting upside way too much, in this instance, it feels like you're being way too safe when you could get maybe a little bit of a higher end option a little bit later. Last season, Isaiah Pacheco scored 15 or more fantasy points 4 times, while Kenneth Walker scored 15 or more fantasy points 6 times. Kenneth Walker also had 56 missed tackles last season, compared to Pacheco's 37 missed tackles. That's one thing that Kenneth Walker does much better than Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco definitely runs through people well, but Walker just makes everybody miss. Walker was also slightly better in runs of 10 or more yards. He had 24 runs last season of 10 or more yards compared to Pacheco's 20 runs of 10 or more yards. And I mentioned a minute ago that there were some things that Pacheco just doesn't do that does limit his upside potentially. One of those things comes in the passing game. While both of these guys are pretty even in the amount of volume that they see, Kenneth Walker is an absolute beast after the catch and a very, very good receiver. Kenneth Walker also sees more attempts inside the 5-yard line. Last season, he had 15 rushing attempts when the Seahawks got within the 5. Isaiah Pacheco, on the other hand, only saw 9 attempts. And with an improved passing game this season and better wide receivers, it really is going to beg the question, what will Isaiah Pacheco see in 2024? Some of that passing game work he saw last season could definitely be gone. Those touches inside the 5-yard line could still be going to their receiver core or Travis Kelce. For me personally, I think Walker at his ADP is a better investment with a little bit more upside. All right, my final one is not a soapbox that I'm going to spend too long on, but kind of a bonus one that I put here at the very end. And this mistake would be letting Jameson Williams drop to wide receiver 48 overall. Because in best ball leagues, especially with your later round picks, you're looking for upside. And there may be no better dart throws this season at the wide receiver position than Jameson Williams. The Lions are going to have 118 vacated targets from guys that are no longer with the team. And we know that Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and even Jahmyr Gibbs are probably going to stay very consistent with the targets that they saw last season, which means Jameson Williams may only be 4th on the team in targets. But his big play potential, which was highlighted in the NFC Championship, is what the game changer would end up being. He had 67 total yards and 2 touchdowns against the 49ers defense. He was used on the ground and through the air. Jameson Williams' speed is something that the Detroit Lions want to get involved a whole lot more this year. And when you take a look at the other wide receivers in the ADP area of Jameson Williams, why not take a shot on him and one of the league's best offenses over some of the other guys? I'm sorry, but there's no way that I'm taking a dart throw on Keon Coleman or Jackson Smith-Njigba, who are both going in front of Jameson. Christian Watson is there, but he's always hurt. Give me J-Mo. Deontay Johnson for Carolina may have a ton of targets, but wouldn't have the same upside. Ladd McConkey had one of the worst injury scores ever from Dr. Ethan Turner coming out of the draft for a wide receiver. No way I'm investing in a rookie over Jameson Williams. Brian Thomas, the rookie in Jacksonville, there's a lot of mouths to feed there as well. Give me J-Mo. And even Rashee Rice, if we're looking for upside, give me J-Mo over Rashee Rice. With the added targets in Kansas City, Rice will have a decent floor, but he's not going to be the big play guy. So yeah, at his ADP, I think letting Jameson Williams fall below some of those other guys that I listed absolutely would be a huge mistake. But Headliner Nation, down in the comments below, let me know which one of these mistakes you agree agree with the most? Or do you have your own mistake that you're looking to warn people about this season? If you're new here to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Anytime we drop new content, you'll know about it right away. And also, YouTube is going to recommend another video to you here in just a minute. If you missed it, make sure you check it out right now. I'm going to get out of here, Headliner Nation. Peace out, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.